Today we want to see a kind of a relation that literature and science have with each other. It has been seen, like for example, if I have to draw a kind of a triangle and want to explore the relations between or among science, literature, and if I want to add a religion also in that dynamics, then we may find perhaps that they may not agree with each other. Being a teacher of literature, let me put literature at the top. I will put science here and religion, let me put it here. Science and religion has a problem that we know they by and large do not agree with each other. There is a scientific temperament and there is a religious temperament. That there is the way of scientifically investigating the truth, and then there is a huge belief system which believes in the truth without requirement of the proofs which science necessarily requires. And then there is the literature. It deals with both science and religion, and well, I would like to say that they by and large do not agree with this. We don't want to explore this today. Let us say this aspect, this relation between science and literature. When we say they do not agree with each other on different parameters of the thing, this is a very unidimensional way of making a triangle and trying to very generally say they do not agree with each other. This is a very gross generalization that is visible in this very idea of the triangle. If you want to think of a theory or a concept of the relation between literature, science and religion or among themselves, then we require enough proof to prove this hypothesis. Well, this is a very unidirectional gross generalization of this. We said that because these relations are not only one that they do not agree with each other or they counter argue with each other, but then they support each other also in a different way. So when we try to look at literature and science and how do they deal with each other, for example, how do literature deal with scientific inventions, developments in sciences, how do literature respond to those things? How do they say about that? Well, we have seen that people in 20th century, when they have to prove their new theories or we have to look at literature with a different dynamics, they used to explore Renaissance literature a lot. Well, let us also try to explore Renaissance literature. For example, if we look at the texts like Dr. Faustus, we all know that Dr. Faustus is the text, a play written by Christopher Marlowe, wherein there is a very interesting exploration of science and superstition also there. We don't want to go into the thorough text and how do everything gets explored in that, but I want to just concentrate on a part of the question and answer which were exchanged between Dr. Faustus and Mephistopheles. Dr. Faustus was ready to make a pact to give his soul to the devil if his questions are answered. He had a deep hunger for knowing things, which was in a way a Renaissance spirit. Perhaps the people of Renaissance time were hungry to know more, and Christopher Marlowe, being the rising son of the Renaissance spirit, is exploring that in literature. So people perhaps were very deeply craving for scientific temperament. Perhaps people wanted to have more of scientific answers to what was believed to be religious ideas of the previous time, previous era, the dark ages, the way it is written nowadays. So too much control of religion, and people wanted more of scientific answers to their questions. And then there is a literature which tries to satiate that hunger which people wanted to have from science. So for example, in this play, Dr. Faustus is asking questions about what are these planets, their revolution, their rotation, and why do they move in this particular fashion? How much time do they take to revolve, to rotate, various things. So imagine there were an idea like people believed in the concept that Earth is the center, Earth is flat, kind of concept. From there now people started believing that Earth is not the center, Sun is at the center, and then all these planets move around the Sun. There is something known as a star, then there is something known as planets. Some of the shiny objects have their own lights, that others don't. So these all things were exploring in Renaissance time. This was the first time that the Western world were awakening to this new knowledge. Literature responded. Renaissance literature responded. Christopher Marlowe, as an artist, responded to these questions and tried to take this into this. There is a very interesting improvisation of this in play also. Let us see in this play performance here that how this was improvised in a play. This is a performance done in a Globe Theatre, wherein this very scene, which was a very important scene in the play, wherein Mephistopheles, this is Mephistopheles, is answering the questions of Dr. Faustus. And see, on the stage, chorus has come with the globes, and they are showing the rotation, the revolution, and the questions of Dr. Faustus to know about the planetary movement. And whatever knowledge was there, we know today after 400-500 years that, well, they were not having enough knowledge about the universe. Even today we don't have the enough knowledge. We are exploring the entire universe. But this was how it got improvised on a stagecraft. This is a Globe Theatre performance. Dunster, Matthew Dunster is a director who is trying to make this in a very recent time there. But they used something interesting to explore this very idea there. So scientific inventions, developments, and how this play, literature responded by answering to that also. But we know today that these things were rather very old in those. Today if we take Dr. Faustus in the classroom, students will say, well, this is very simple thing. The kids in the schools are also knowing about all these kinds of things. We know that there is this kind of this movement, planetary movement, and the kind of a thing that keep on happening. We know, we can take this GIFs in the class, even better GIFs we can take in the class to show that how things keep on moving in different capacity on this also. So like the stagecraft, from there to this idea, when we move on and we try to explore the thing, today we can also say that it is not only two-way movement that happens there, but it is a multi-way kind of a thing. There is, you can see that the movement of the sun there, and sun keeps on rushing there. So there is not only rotation and revolution, but the sun has its own gravitational power, that it drives all the planets together with it, and they all are moving in this direction, where they go towards a very bright spot where they are entering. They try to go inside that, and perhaps they all are committing suicide. All the planets all the stars, they are perhaps committing suicide. That is the movement of things there. So sun is not static. Earth obviously is not at the center. Sun also is not the center. And we have a better explorations of all this thing that happens there. So this becomes very interesting to see that how this all we can look into as a part, and how literature has to respond to the scientific inventions that becomes necessary. Well, this becomes interesting today because 2020 has faced a very interesting crisis in terms of coronavirus. And we know that coronavirus has if there is a scientific explanation of that, we also have seen that there was lots of unscientific arguments and things that went on around corona virus kind of a thing. So in the time to come, are our writers going to look at this crisis post 2021-22 as they will move on, as the time will move on, how our writers, our creative writers, are going to respond to this crisis? Will they take a kind of a scientific stand and answer the curiosity of the people in and around coronavirus? Will they take unscientific argument and contribute in a bigger way to what we call it a kind of infodemic? Lots of infodemic that has happened in and around corona crisis. So lots of wrong information about that. So unscientific, superstitious, unreasonable, or the arguments with the help of which has been reached out with the help of reason, scientific way of looking at it, and coming out of all kinds of false information around that. How are our writers going to explore will be something very interesting. We have seen in films like Contagion, or in Virus, which was 2019 film, where the filmmakers have taken a very reasonable and scientific stance regarding pandemic. Viral pandemics there. We have seen writers like Albert Camus in The Plague has also taken a very rational argument. He also has put a character, a religious character also in that play, where but he is proved wrong in all his assumptions which comes from religious scriptures about a kind of this is a punishment given by God. Well, Albert Camus way back, so many years back, has falsified that argument in work of literature. This is how literature and science have a very curious relation. It is not always opposite, but scientific inventions and development have to reach to the people, and through stories, if they reach in a rather scientific way, then we perhaps will have yet another awakening which is required now post 2020. We are on a crossroad. From here we can go back to the Middle Ages, middle dark ages, or we can have a new renaissance. The choice is ours, and our writers will have to show a path to us. Thank you, all of you.